Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kevin Plays Disc Golf. Today we have a playthrough and course review from the Valley Disc Golf Course in Penacook, New Hampshire. My name is Kevin, and I play disc golf. Filming on course for this video was done on October 26, 2024. Traveling to this course will most likely have you coming from Interstate 93 and exiting onto US Route 4 West. If you're coming from the south, take exit 17 and keep right on the off-ramp. If you're coming from the north, take exit 17W. In either case, continue straight through the first rotary. At the second rotary, go 3/4 of the way around and follow the signs to US Route 3 South. After about a mile, the road will end and you should take a left onto US Route 3 South. Continue following Route 3 straight through the rotary. After about 3/4 of a mile, the entrance to the Merrimack Valley Middle School and High Schools on Bede Drive will be on your left. When you see the cemetery on your right, you're getting close to Bede Drive. The road will shortly turn left and bring you behind the high school. Immediately after the high school, take a right, and this will take you between the middle school and high school with a large parking lot between them. Ideally, you would like to park in the corner of the parking lot opposite from where you first drive in, by the corner of the middle school and the baseball field. You can follow the third base side fence of the baseball field around to the first tee. This course is at a school, and if the baseball field, softball field, or soccer field are in use, this will affect play on hole 1. I ended up skipping hole 1 as a result. If the football field is in use, this will affect play on holes 8 and 9. The school is closed before 2:30 p.m. on school days as well. The day I played was in late fall, and most of the leaves had fallen off the trees. This did lead to a couple of occasions where it was difficult to find my disc that was buried in the leaves. It also made the footing slippery on the steeper hills. It had been dry, so there was not much water in the creeks. It was also very windy with 20+ mile-per-hour wind gusts that affected my play on many holes. There is only one set of tee pads and baskets. There are no optional course configurations. Alcohol and tobacco are not allowed. There were some trash cans out on the day I played. As you'll see, the athletic fields can be quite busy on weekends. There were no trash cans on the course, though. The building with the blue roof near the baseball field is a bathroom, and it is usually open. There's also a water fountain at that building. Dogs are allowed as long as they remain leashed and you clean up after them. In addition to the soccer fields being used, there were also several people walking and biking on the trails, so be aware of others. Hole 8 is the only blind tee shot on the course. I'll have my overall review of the course at the end of the video. Be sure to post your comments as to your thoughts of what looks fun and where you think the problem areas are. Now we'll get to the parking lot near the middle school.
Today we are at the Valley Disc Golf Course. We are between the Merrimack Valley Middle School there and the high school over there. And as this is a Saturday morning on a school weekend, there is a lot going on, a lot of sports events taking place. So it is a little bit busier than normal. So from here to get to the first hole, we need to follow the baseball field. We're going to go to the right edge of the baseball field, and this is opposite the direction that we drove in. We're closer to the middle school than the high school. And all right, here we have the baseball field. Nothing is going on here at the baseball field anyway, so we can take a little walk this way. As you can see, it is quite windy today, so I'm hoping the wind dies down quite a bit. So we're continuing on, just keeping the softball field, baseball field on our right. We have this nice little warm-up area. Continue down this path past the fields. Take a right, continuing along the fields. Here we have a practice basket right there. I'm not sure how much of a practice basket that is, with stuff going on, with a soccer match actually taking place right now. I'm not going to do anything there just because I am a little bit paranoid about that and things going on, and I don't want this to affect their game. Hole 1 is a 180-foot par 3, dogleg left. The soccer field is out of bounds, so anything over the fence is out of bounds. We can see the basket from here. We are just to the right of the tee pad. Between the tee pad and the fence, you can see the basket through a small gap in the trees here, especially with it being as windy as it is, with the wind heavily going from right to left. I would normally go out around those trees. However, due to the soccer game that's going on, I'm actually going to skip this hole just so I have no risk at all of a disc going and interrupting the soccer game. So we'll take a quick look up at hole 1 and then we'll move on to hole 2. To get from the basket of 1 to the tee for hole 2, we go past the basket and we take a left. So we can see a tee pad off to the right. That's the tee for hole 4, not for hole 2. So to take a left, go further into the woods. Take a little walk down this path. Nice, well-defined path here. And we take a right. There's a sign saying hole 2 to the right. And here we have the tee pad for hole 2. Hole 2 is a 184-foot par 3, severe dogleg left, double mando between these two trees directly in front of us, and a gap to get through to go through a cavern here. So we are at the very right front corner of the tee box, and though we cannot see it from this height, if you're just off the right front corner of the tee box, you can see the basket from this position if you're standing up, going through the pine tree on the left side of the left mando. There's a small pine tree in front of that. I'll point out the direction here, but it is the direction of the basket is just to the right of that small tree that's swaying in the breeze, and of the other pine tree in the distance. With the wind here, we may actually catch a glimpse of the band of the basket even from this height. So there is, as I mentioned on hole 1, a pretty significant wind today. Here we're still going right to left. The key thing is just as long as we can get up onto that plateau on the other side, we're going to have a reasonable shot at a 3 from there. It's not that far, but the direction is a little bit of a challenge because of these mandos here. If I had a stronger backhand, that would be the play here. However, I do not. I don't even think my backhand is quite strong enough yet to deal with getting around the corner there, so I'm just going to put a forehand out on Super Anheuser and let the wind catch it and hope it makes it up the hill on the other side. That's about as good as I could hope for from here. I have probably a circle 2 putt for birdie from there. I'll take a 3 from there. One thing I did not notice on hole 1, but I did here on hole 2, is that there's a little marker pointing us to the direction of the next tee box. Here it's a little blue mark that's zip tied to one of the posts. So to get from the basket of 2 to the tee of hole 3, if we go back this way, which is sort of in the direction of where we would most likely be taking our second shot from on hole 2. And we do want to be a little bit careful because there could be people teeing off there. But instead of taking a right to go past the gully, here we have a sign for hole 3. And if we continue just a little bit past this, we have our tee box for hole 3. Hole 3 is a 176-foot par 3 straight ahead. There is out of bounds in the parking lot on the left side, but it is going to be difficult to get there because of how far over it is. There are two baskets here. I will be playing the closer basket, which is the yellow banded one. The second basket is a little bit further and basically at the fence for the soccer field. Again, as there is a soccer game going on here, I don't want to risk that. The yellow banded basket is far enough away where it's not going to be an issue. We have a couple different options as far as how to get there. We have a few trees in the way, but there is a route to the left and a route to the right. I'm going to take the route to the left just because I have my Terra, MVP Terra, which I've found goes overstable and is going to be going left about the right amount and hopefully be able to skip up right close to the basket, going around all the trees if we make it far enough up. Again, at 176, this is not a long hole. Well, that's not what I had in mind. Let's see if I can make a par putt. Hooray, I made a putt today. Even after that horrid tee shot and a tree bounced back for the second shot, it still left me with a par putt, which I will gladly take. A couple things to note while we are at the basket for hole 3, so we can get a better shot of the basket that we can see off in the distance. That is right up against the fence, so we don't want to go for that right now with the soccer game going on. And then we have one of these nice little tags here that points us in the direction of hole 4. So to get from the basket of 3 to the tee of 4, you go back up the fairway, take your left, follow this path here. And if you remember from the basket of 1, we could see the tee of 4 just in front of this wall here. And here we are at the tee of hole 4. Hole 4 is a 395-foot par 4, significantly downhill. One thing we do need to be aware of is that this actually crosses the fairway for hole 2 as well. So although in theory we should be going under anybody teeing off from hole 2, we do want to be just a little bit careful and aware of that situation. I don't think there's any real danger of getting hit by a disc given how far down the fairways they cross, but just something to be aware of if people playing on 2 that may not be watching for where you're going. We can see the basket downhill off in the distance there. Again, it is significantly downhill, so at 395, I think there is a reasonable shot at a birdie from here. Again, because it is a gully as well, as long as we can keep it in the gully, even if we're up one side or another, the gully is steep enough where it's going to roll back into the gully. So I think the whole key here is just hit this first gap and let it fly, see how far we can get it down the hill. I will definitely take that. That hit a tree and bounced back into the middle of the gully, but that got a long way down there. I should have a good shot at birdie from there. That tree I hit is about 300 feet off the tee, and it even kicked forward from there. So I've got 70 or 80 feet here for eagle. So just a couple things to note here as I get further down is that there's a significant drop off on the left side once you get to the area of the green, and if you go way long, there's a drop off there. But here, again, I'm close enough where I have to go way long to have that issue. So let's see what I can do for a, looks like what's going to be a jump putt for eagle from here. Kind of a weak eagle bid, but I'm going to have a drop in for birdie from there, which is always a nice thing to have. As you can see, I'll have a drop in for my birdie 3 from there. But just as one other thing to note here around the green is there is a chance of your disc getting wet, as there is a creek that runs behind and to the left. So if you have a roll away down this hill, you may end up in the creek. It's not very fast flowing and doesn't appear to be very deep. And then that creek continues around to the right side as well. So if you have a roll away back right, which I think it's going to be tough with the way the trees are to get back right, unless you have a death putt that you way overshoot, it's going to be tough to end up down there. POV lefty putt for birdie. Hooray! Here at the basket of 4, we can see we have another arrow pointing back, sort of in the direction we came. If we go back to the gully, from here we can see we have the T sign for hole 5. And it's a little not obvious as to where to go, partly because we have a downed tree here this way. But we want to go to the bottom. We want to take a left, sort of go over this down tree. We don't want to go in the direction of the river. And if we go right back here, here we are at the tee pad for hole 5. Hole 3 is a 153-foot par 5, straight uphill. I don't think I can overemphasize how much uphill this is. So my guess is this is probably a solid 50, 60 feet uphill from the tee pad. So even though it says 153, it's going to play a lot longer than that. And the other issue is that since it is so straight uphill, there is a significant issue of having the disc roll back. So the whole idea, I think, is just going to be get the disc up there as far as you can and heave it up there. With the way these trees are playing forehand, I don't think there's any hope of me actually getting up there. So I'm going to just play my rock and see if I can get it at least a good chunk of the way up the hill. My backhand isn't strong enough to be able to get up there and get that high. So it's this is one that I think if I get a 3, I'm going to be happy with this here. That's what I was hoping for. It just stuck into the hillside about 3/4 of the way up. So I will take that. Here we are looking back at the tee. And again, I don't think I can overemphasize how steeply uphill this is. I've done a lot of mountain climbing in my day, and this is steep and treacherous. The leaves make it particularly slippery. I did make it about 3/4 of the way up the hill, so I have a putt. You may just hear it because the basket is so far below where I am and where I'm throwing is that I can't have the camera level and still be able to see everything. So we'll see if this works or not. I will take my 3 and be very happy with that one. All right, here we are at the basket of 5, looking back at the tee box. So if we turn around at the very crest of the hill, we have a sign for hole 6, and we go over the crest of the hill. And unlike the last hole, this is a nice, well-maintained path that not too worried about slipping and falling down on. Even though it is fairly steep, it's not nearly as treacherous as going up hole 5 was. Although I will say that if it is wet in the spring, this is probably going to be not too fun, or if it's wet from having just rain. Once we get to the bottom of the hill, here we are at the tee pad for hole 6. Hole 6 is a 176-foot par 3, dead straight ahead. There are some trees to worry about, and there's a gully on the right side, so if you miss, you want to miss left. It's virtually impossible to go long here because there's a very steep embankment on the other side of the basket. So if you're going to take an ace run, this is a good ace run hole. And that was terrible. Well, I'll take the drop in for 3. That's kind of a nice aesthetic touch that they have these logs around the basket for hole 6. So let's see if I can put this in. I'm right at the corner. I hit the logs just short. But hooray, we got our par. We can get our disc out of the basket. And if we turn around and go back up in the direction of the tee, except stay to the left, here we have a sign for the tee for hole 7. And then just on the other side of that, right up here, we have the tee box. Hole 7 is a 165-foot par 3 straight ahead over a gully. That creek that we saw on the back of hole 4, we do go over that here. There's a nice little bridge to walk across to get to the area of the green. Again, the idea with this being short is just get it up in the area of the basket. You can't go long because of the hill, but you want to be careful of rolling away to the right because that may roll down back downhill into the gully. It's not marked as out of bounds, but the water is deep enough even this time of year where although you may not lose a disc, it may be a bit uncomfortable for foot placement for your next shot. Oh, miss it. All right. Nice. All right, I hit the tree that I'm aiming for. That's going to be a drop-in birdie from there. Here we are on the bridge, looking back up at the tee. So this is not as wet as I had imagined. My guess is in the spring, this is a lot more wet, but right now it's just a trickle. So even if you do end up down here, it's not going to do a whole lot more other than maybe get your feet damp. So here's the one time I'm glad I hit the tree I was aiming for. So here's my POV putt for birdie. Hooray, birdie 2. So here we are at the basket of 7 with the bridge on our right. There's a sign for the hole 8 tee that has come out of the ground, so that may be replaced there anyway, but it's pointing back further up this hill. So we want to continue past the basket of hole 7, continue up the hill. This is a nice, again, a well-defined path, even though it's steep. It's a little obscured by the leaves right now, but my guess is that 3 weeks ago that this was very easy to follow and obvious where you should go. And then right at the top of this hill, we have the tee pad for hole 8. Hole 8 is a 209-foot par 3. Straight ahead, you cannot see the basket from the tee as it is significantly uphill. Not just this first crest, but there's a second crest beyond, so it's even further uphill from there. The direction of the basket is just to the left of the small tree that's sticking out into the fairway up in that second group of trees. If you're standing on the tee pad, depending on exactly where you're standing, you may be able to see the top of the goalposts in the football field. That is the direction you want to go. The basket is directly on a line from the tee pad to the goalpost. So if you can see that, that's where you want to go. The fairway sort of goes left to right and then back left. So it's a very tricky shot to get up there, even with a relatively short par 3 and a pretty narrow gap to get there. All right, here we are at the crest of the hill looking back at the tee pad. And if we swing around, we can see that off in the distance we have the basket that is on top of that planter in the little bushes there. So kind of a nice raised basket. There is kind of a narrow gap to get there, which makes this for a challenging path to get through. One other thing that I will point out here is that I tried to go through the gap on the left side without realizing that there is a 10-foot tall dirt mound at the end of that gap. Not that that helped, I didn't quite make it that far, but if I hadn't bounced off the tree, I very likely would have hit that dirt mound. So I've got a long shot for 2 from here, but I have the disc was nice enough to bounce into the fairway, so I have a shot at, should have an easy 3 anyway. Well, maybe not an easy 3, but a shot at 3. Can I make a par putt? To get from the basket of 8 to the tee pad for 9, we have 2 different options, depending on whether you have people playing in front of you or behind you. So if you know there's nobody in front of you, then we probably want to go past the fence on the right and then take a left and walk down there. If you know there's nobody behind you, then we can turn around, go back up the fairway for hole 8 and take a left by the wooden, by the little wooden structures there, instead of going over the crest and down the hill to the tee for 8, we take a left, and that loops us around to the tee pad. Personally, I think it's a little bit safer to go past the basket of 8. And one other thing about going this way is you can actually see the hole for 9, see exactly where it is. So in this case, it's behind that tree right there. And again, if you're going this way, be aware that you are walking up the fairway of hole 9. So take a right and continue down, and the tee pad is directly in front of us. Hole 9 is a 282-foot par 3. The basket is level with the tee pad, however, there's a lot of up and downs and little knolls between here and there. We are at the very left front corner of the tee pad, and there's a small gap on the right side through this main line of trees on the right, and then there's another small gap way off in the distance between a large tree and a smaller tree, and we can just see the basket peeking out from behind that tree on the right side. The fence here and the football field is out of bounds, so we want to make sure we don't go over the fence and stay over the fence. Here we have, today we have a significant breeze that's going left to right, so hopefully that will keep us from going out of bounds that way. The other issue is that if you go far enough right, and you have to go pretty far right, but again, because of the wind today, it does come into play, that the ground does drop off steeply if you end up going way right past the ropes course. So those are your options here, and let's see what we can do. Well, I saw it hit the tree, and it caught a gust of wind, but I have no idea where it went. It may actually be stuck in the tree. Well, that's not how we wanted to end our round with a 5, but sometimes that happens. Again, trees, wind. I had a 20-mile-an-hour wind gust carry both my second and third shots way offline, so that's kind of a bummer. But still did well overall so far. But to get from the basket of 9 back to where we parked, we can turn around, follow along the fence line, and walk behind the stands of the football field. Just be a little careful with people playing hole 8 up here from the basket of 8, right there. This will probably be a bit of a time lapse. So if we want to go back to the parking lot, we can continue along that way. Or if we want to play another round, we can continue around to the left behind this building, and that will take us back to the area of T1.
Though I did not see any active upgrades at the time of filming, T-pads and signs have all gone in since the last course description update on UDisc. The thumbnail hole for this course is the basket of hole 8. It has a raised basket on top of a planter that had some nice plants growing out of it. Though it's not my favorite hole on the course, it does make for a good thumbnail photo. My favorite hole is hole 4. Of all the disc golf courses I have ever played, this is the most creative use of the natural terrain I have seen, and it works. It's a tunnel shot not just because there's a narrow series of tree gaps that you need to get through, but because there's an actual gully that you're throwing down that feels like you're throwing down half pipe. Normally having fairways that cross each other is a big safety no-no, but the elevation difference between holes 2 and 4 is so significant that neither hole really affects the other. Though this is listed as a par 4, the same hole on some other courses would be listed as being a par 3. Regardless of the par listed, I feel that the unique fairway with a fair area around the basket that punishes very bad shots makes this an excellent hole. My least favorite hole is hole 5. This could be made much better by adding a trail of switchbacks going up the hill, much like holes 2 or 9 at Moody Park. This hill is one place that the leaves made the footing particularly bad, and I'm not sure how well trying to go up this hill if there was any wetness in the ground would work. The switchbacks could also be built to lessen the rollaway potential, as I could very easily see a 20-foot putt ending up back at the bottom of the hill near the tee area with a bad bounce and roll. I can't imagine playing this hole in the winter without wearing crampons and carrying an ice axe. The first and last holes are critical for introducing the course and leaving the last impression at the end of the round. Though I didn't play the first hole due to the soccer fields being in use, I feel that this is a good introduction to the course, being relatively short, rewarding a precise, risky tee shot and punishing it if it doesn't work, and also providing an optional path for a conservative but relatively easy par. There are several holes like this on the course where there are optional gaps available depending on how aggressively you want to play. Hole 9 does feel like a culmination of all of the holes played so far, not just in the literal sense, but also in the leveling up your character to beat the end boss in an RPG sort of way, where everything that you've gone through and practiced up to that point in the course is put to use at the end of the round. The one thing I don't like about this hole is the potential of it feeling like the round is ruined at the very end due to either a bad tree bounce or a wind gust that pushes the disc left of the fence and out of bounds, costing multiple strokes, or down the hill on the right side of the fairway. If a legitimate path is built going up hole 5, hole 9 will become my least favorite hole on this course. This hole doesn't make me want to come back, but it's not so bad that it overrides how good most of the rest of the course is. Course navigation was easy here. The smaller signs and markers on the baskets do a good job of pointing you in the right direction of the next tee. The only problem I had with route finding was from the basket of hole 1, I went to the tee of hole 4 first. The hole 9 tee can be a bit challenging to find, but you can see it looking from right of the fairway of 8 to know where it is. Hole 8 is the only blind tee shot on course, but the direction that you are supposed to go off the tee is obvious even if you don't know exactly where the basket is before teeing off. The small semi-permanent handwritten arrows were all very helpful and well placed. The experience navigating this course for the first time was much like trying to find Reese's Peanut Butter Cups in a small convenience store that you've never been to before. You know they have to be there, they should be in an obvious place, and even if you go the wrong way, you can probably just look over the shelves into the next aisle to see if they are there. You may not always take the exact most optimal way to get to your goal, but it's equally difficult to go too far astray. This course is extremely safe for discs. The only time that I spent looking for discs involved tee shots that hit trees, went over crest, and buried themselves in piles of leaves. Had I played this course 2 weeks earlier when the leaves were still on the trees, those wouldn't have been issues. I'm struggling to figure out where you could lose a disc on this course, and all I can come up with is going into the river surrounding the hole 4 green in the spring or over the embankment on the right of hole 9, but those are both stretching for places to lose a disc. There isn't anywhere on this course where the thought of losing a disc enters my mind when I'm about to throw. The tee pads are all well marked and consistent, though they are gravel so they don't have the most grip or best feel. This course is short enough where it's not a big concern though, as most tee shots aren't thrown at max power. The baskets are all disc catcher baskets with yellow banding. They are of very good quality, and the yellow banding does make them easier to see in person than they are in the video. My overall course rating for the Valley Disc Golf Course at Merrimack Valley Middle and High School in Penacook, New Hampshire, is that I would be willing to drive out of my way 1.25 hours to play this course for the first time and 45 minutes to play this course again. This is a very good beginner course and is good for practicing your short game. It doesn't have any long bomber holes, but if you're looking to practice your game under 200 feet, this is an excellent option, even with it only being 9 holes. Experiencing hole 4 with no gimmicks, no mandatories or out of bounds, and the creative use of the natural features of the land is what I think a great disc golf hole should strive to be. This hole alone is worth a 1-hour drive to play for the first time. I do want to play this course at some point again with less wind and where I can play hole 1, most likely in the summer when there's less likely to be traffic in the athletic fields. Looking at the UDisc ratings, I feel this course is significantly underrated, especially when you keep in mind that for the most part, this course is beginner friendly and doesn't have any holes that are particularly long or particularly tricky. It's just fun. If you're looking for a warm-up prior to playing Top of the Hill, this should do a good job. I haven't yet played the pay-to-play Top of the Hill course yet, or the other 18-hole course nearby, which is also pay-to-play, Northwind Disc Golf Course. The only course that I have played within a half hour of here is the 9-hole course at New Hampshire Technical Institute in Concord, and as a mild spoiler to that upcoming video, unless you're trying to play every different course rather than quality courses, skip NHTI and play this twice. So thanks for checking out the Valley, and share, and subscribe, and check out my other video linked here, or the playlist of my disc golf courses in New Hampshire that are linked in the description, or whatever.